how you built your personal brand, as well as the business brand, Rebel Marketing, and how important has that brand been to your growth or success, do you think?
What I love about it is that the rebel aspect, it's not only just memorable when I say the name out loud to other people, it reminds me personally not to think like everybody else. It's my own personal brand to remind me that I don't have to follow all the rules per se in marketing and branding to be able to make an impact for my clients as well as myself. So the word rebel is very near and dear to my heart, mostly one, it's memorable as a brand, but also it helps me remind myself to be authentic in what I do with my clients.
Hi, this is Sue Krishna with Brand Strong Marketing, and I have another wonderful guest today on Turbo Branding. As always, we're going to be talking about how to ignite your growth by leveraging the brand to grow faster, easier, and more successfully. But first, I want to introduce you to Lisa Raebel, who has such a fun, distinctive personal and business brand. And I'm going to share a few sentences about her background here, but then I'm going to let her tell you more. But today you are going to meet the Rebel of Rebel Girl Marketing. As the founder, speaker, and chief storyteller, Lisa developed her proprietary Rebel mindset approach after more than 30 years as a successful marketing executive and leading sales professional. She has a book called The Rebel Girl's Guide to Marketing, and it was ranked #1 in 6 categories on Amazon. So kudos for that. But exactly. But her mission is to help businesses stay in business by utilizing focused, uncompromising marketing strategies. And Lisa cuts through the noise and breaks marketing down to what makes sense for her clients, creating strategies that are simple, relatable to their target audiences, and resulting in double-digit growth year after year. So welcome, Lisa. I'm so excited you're here today. And is there anything you would like to add to that introduction?
Oh, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm really honored to be here. This is going to be fun. Conversations with you is always, is always really good. And for as far as my background is concerned, no, I mean, what's funny is that people keep asking me like, how long did it take you to write the book? And I used to say like 18 months, but my new answer is like, it's those 30 years.
Yeah.
Because quite honestly, everything that goes into that book is about the experiences I've had from when I was a salesperson, back in my 20s in corporate America, all the way through like all the experiences I've had in marketing. So it's a fun thing to do to put it all into into like a condensed area. But yeah, it's great. And, working on book 2, which goes along with it, which is a lot of workbooks, but I don't know. It's really fun to have Rebel Girl Marketing as my baby and helping clients. That's my joy. My joy is those aha moments with clients. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. So yeah, and I can't wait to dig in and talk about brand and marketing strategy with you because I think we both are passionate about that. So
Yeah.
since you were talking about the book, let's just jump right in and
Okay.
tell me how you built your personal brand, as well as the business brand, Rebel Marketing, and how important has that brand been to your growth or success, do you think?
Huge. Because honestly, the reason that Rebel Girl was born, that name was actually used for the business, was I went through so many different versions of my name when I was starting the business. Like I would go into the incognito, right, in Google, and I'd like check out brand names. Oh, that would already exist. That one already exists, whatever that kind of case is. But my brother-in-law calls me the Rebel of the Rabels, which is my married name.
Nice.
And so I was literally driving down the highway one day and it just popped into my head. And what I love about it is that the rebel aspect, it's not only just memorable when I say the name out loud to other people, it reminds me personally not to think like everybody else. It's my own personal brand to remind me that I don't have to follow all the rules per se in marketing and branding to be able to make an impact for my clients as well as myself. So the word rebel is very near and dear to my heart, mostly one, it's memorable as a brand, but also it helps me remind myself to be authentic in what I do with my clients.
Yeah. Well, you're talking about this rebel mindset, and you've obviously
Yeah.
you've touched a little bit about what it means for your brand, but what does that mean in general and how you're talking to your clients?
So marketing as a whole for business owner feels overwhelming. It's like taxes, right? Like taxes in and of itself is the whole premise is understandable, but it's overwhelming when you try to do it. Marketing is the same way. We understand that marketing our business is necessary to survive, but it's all the details in it that really get overwhelmed. And so the rebel mindset to help business owners kind of, I don't want to say calm down, but kind of feel some relief in that stress is
Yeah.
that marketing is simply storytelling and selling is simply telling that story to other people.
Hmm.
And when you think of it and the rebel mindset aspect of like it's storytelling and telling it to others, they go, that makes sense. That's simple. So then we define how we tell that, what that story is, and then how we tell that story, where we tell the story, when we tell the story. That's the strategy part of the branding.
Yeah. No, I love that because you and I talked last time is there's a whole marketing continuum, right? And there's
Mhm.
all kinds of places where people come in and can help you with your marketing and play. And, you're amazing at that marketing strategy piece, like you talked about, is how do we,
Yeah.
it's about storytelling and where are we going to tell the story, right?
Yeah.
Whereas I play a little bit before that with the branding to say, like you touched on a little bit, but really in depth, what is the story? And how is
Yeah.
that tied to the business strategy and the vision and where you want it to go? So I like to, we talked about this last time, is I kind of like to say I help small business owners who are inundated with the day-to-day, challenges that come at them as they're running their small business and some of the overwhelm that you touched about on marketing. But I help them fall in love with their business again so they
Mhm.
can just reconnect on, oh my gosh, this is why I started this business, or this is why I'm so invested in helping it, making it grow and getting my team behind me and things like that.
Yeah.
So I love that rebel mindset, like you said, is taking something that's overwhelming for most business owners, marketing, because there is such a big continuum on strategy for branding, strategy for marketing, then the implementation and things like that, is just make it
Yeah.
simple for them so it's not
Yeah.
overwhelming. And I love what you said earlier about being a rebel to a certain extent too means, it's distinguishing yourself. It's being different. It's not following the same path that other companies or other consultants or people are following. So I love that. I love the way you talked about that. So
Yeah.
um,
Thanks.
uh, another question for you I have was, and this is something I talk to my clients about, but when you were putting your brand, like you said, you were driving in the car and you were coming up with these ideas and they just kind of stuck. But did you find that it was hard to look at yourself objectively to figure out or to define what your brand was? Did you need
Oh,
any outside help?
yes, of course I did. Oh my God. Because we are so close to our business, we can't see it objectively sometimes. It's that whole forest for the trees thing, right? That
Right.
there's a reason that saying is out there. But it's interesting, the reason you need that outside perspective, and you can train yourself to have the outside perspective. So
Mhm.
like I'm going to give you a little snippet into the book, but
Okay.
I talk about how an everyday example. Let me give you an everyday example. When you go into your kitchen and you clean your kitchen, it's clean, right?
Right.
And then it's everyday clean. But then there's like mother-in-law clean,
Ooh,
right?
yeah.
You got the guests coming over and you look at that same black splash you've looked at 100 times and it looks clean. And all of a sudden you're like noticing the things that are on there that like, when did I make eggs and chocolate cake? How did that get,
Right.
like you see things differently because you're not looking at it from your perspective, you're looking at it from your guest perspective.
Right.
And if you train yourself to look at your content and your marketing and your art in your marketing from the audience's perspective, like who you're talking to,
Hmm.
you then can get a little bit more of an objective tone to it. Like I have blogs on my laptop that will never see the light of day because I'm typing them. I'm like, this is cool. This is gonna be great content. And then I read it from my audience's perspective. I'm like, yeah, nobody cares. Nobody
Exactly.
cares
You're like, it
about this
excited
cool
me.
marketing stuff except for me, right?
Right.
Yeah, right. So it is hard to look at it. And so I do put a filter on it. I send it to other people, actually my marketing friends, and I say, does this make sense? And they'll either like call me on it or but
Right.
I'm always getting a different perspective. Even like, I'm going to be going this afternoon up to an hour and a half away to a speaker lab with the National Speaking Association because I have some of the topics that I'm talking about in the second book, I'm actually doing a speech on.
Okay.
And so I'm getting their perspective And so you have to surround yourself with other people to give you that outside perspective on your brand and your messaging to make sure, because it might make sense to you. But this is what I always tell my clients. We're not selling to you.
Right.
We're selling to your prospects. So you have to see everything from your prospects' perspective. So get those people's perspective. So it is
Exactly.
hard. It's hard for us marketers. It's hard for anybody who's a business owner. So give yourself some grace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I love that. I used to, um, especially because, building off of that, same thing with branding is, the brand resides in the minds of your stakeholders, the people who interact with you. So the best you can do is say, I want this to be my brand, and I'm going to do everything I can to manage that, but it still resides in the mind of the people who interact with your business. So I used to, when I would kick off a meeting, I used to give out these little mirrors that said, see yourself as others see you, because it's
Oh,
just a great reminder that it's like, again, like you said, it's not what you think it is. It's what they think it is. And you
yeah.
have to figure out what they think it is so that you can either build on it or change it. So,
And
yeah.
who was it? You probably know this, but it's a famous quote, but it's like marketing or branding, I should say. Branding is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. I didn't say that. Somebody else famous said that, but I can't remember
Yes.
who it is. And I think that's a really good way of thinking about it. And I love the mirror idea. That's amazing.
Yeah. So it's just another little visual idea to get people to stop and think about it. So, but all
Right.
right. Now let's talk about strategy, because like I said earlier, I know we're both absolutely passionate, advocates for having a game plan, right? So when I
Yeah.
talk about branding, I talk about you need to know the strategy. You need to have that foundation set of who are you? What do you stand for? What is your unique value that you can deliver to your target market? Who are your target markets? And things like that. And having all of that teed up before you start spending money on marketing or developing the marketing strategy. But
Right.
for you, how do you describe strategy to your clients or to anyone who kind of pushes back, like, no, 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 let's just jump into tactics?
Yeah. Yeah. If I had a nickel, right?
Yeah,
If I had a
right.
nickel for every time that happened. So what I say is, um, okay, I like to compare what I do to everyday stuff so then the business owners can kind of go, oh, that makes sense to me now. It's like going to the grocery store without a list.
Yeah,
You know, you're not sure what you're supposed to get. You don't know what's at home that's still there. Like you haven't planned and strategized. You just show up at the grocery store. And so random stuff gets ended up in the cart, right? And you get home and like, oh, well, gee, I don't have any butter and I don't have any eggs and I don't have any milk, because you didn't like strategize and say, okay, what do I have? What do I need? And it's the
right.
same thing when it comes to your marketing. If you don't know what's already working and what has already been done and what hasn't worked and what you need to do, like people don't even ask themselves, why do I need marketing in the first place?
Yeah,
Why? Are you trying to, are you a subject matter expert? Are you launching a new product? Are you trying to get on stages? Like, why are you doing the marketing in the first place? Is like building your grocery list or building your marketing strategy. You have to figure out why I'm going there in the first place and then figure that out. And then you can go into the tactics of like, okay, I am launching a new product in 6 weeks and I want my existing customers to have it first. So I need to have a marketing campaign to go to my existing customers. And then in 6 weeks, it launches out to everybody else.
right.
Like, why are you doing marketing in the first place is question number one.
Yeah, yeah,
So you're not throwing, I mean, it's so funny because people, when I talk to me, they're like, yeah, I don't want to spend money on marketing because I hired somebody and they didn't do very well. But then I ask them questions like, well, did you have a brand? Do you know what your brand is? To your point, like, why did you start your business in the first place? What's the passion? What's the reason? Why did you tell them who your target audience is? They're like, no, that's their job. And I'm like, no, 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 no. Let's back up a little. Let's build that foundation. Let's get that brand organized. Let's get that marketing strategy organized. And then we can go and implement and launch it. And then your money and time is spent in the right places.
yeah.
So
I absolutely love that.
I hope that makes sense.
It absolutely makes sense. And
Yeah.
I love your analogy about the grocery list. I sometimes talk, the one I use sometimes, but I think I like your grocery list one better. But it's kind of like going down the road. So the marketing strategy, if you're going on a journey, the marketing strategy is your destination, right?
Yeah.
And let's say your marketing activity, then the implementation of that is all of the, or it's the stops you're going to take or how you're going to get to that destination, right? And that can change over time, right? So your marketing
Yeah.
strategy could be, this is where I want to go. I want to, like you said, I want to launch a new product and service. I want to enter a new geographic market. I want to grow 25%, whatever that goal is. How you get there could change, but you still should be looking forward, and you still should be moving towards that goal. Whereas I kind of say, if you don't have that goal, that strategy in place, then you start taking off ramps on your journey and distracted by shiny objects and beautiful looking buildings. And suddenly you may be going backwards and you
Yeah.
just don't know where you are anymore or how to even extricate yourself to get back on the road to where you were trying to get to. So,
Yeah, it's the guardrails, right? So you don't go off on those off ramps. Yeah, it's like, okay, if it's
yes.
not getting to me to my goal, then let's stay within our guardrails and stay
Yeah.
within our strategy.
Yeah.
And
No,
what's
I love
interesting
that.
is that people, like you said, I love the fact that you said that it changes because it
Mhm.
absolutely changes. Because if anything changes, it's going to be stuff in your marketing. I mean, once you
Right.
develop your brand and your core, that can tweak, but it's not going to change dramatically. Where
Dramatically.
marketing,
Mhm.
you know, economies change and industries change and your products change and your services. Like when I first started, I started doing a lot more in marketing
Mhm.
and I was trying to be everything to everybody, which we already know doesn't work.
Right.
But for me, I didn't know what Rebel Girl was going to look like. So I tried a whole bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
then I narrowed it to strategy. And I literally grew my business so much faster by targeting that one thing. And
Perfect.
so I don't go off on that, like, you know, too much on that design aspect or that implementation aspect. I just focus on strategy and my business grew dramatically.
I love that. I love that. So, have
Yeah.
you found what type of business or what type of business owner gravitates to that? Or do they have a certain characteristic or someone who can see what
Oh,
you're trying to tell them about how you need a game plan?
yeah, absolutely. I mean, normally it's a line that sounds something like, I know I need marketing, but I don't know where to start, is usually the kind of business owner that gravitates towards me
Okay.
because they're like, if I could just figure out who I'm targeting, what I need to say, where do I need to, like, if I will do it or I'll hire, I have people to do it. I just don't know. I don't know any of those things. That's what gravitates to me. And the people that kind of bounce off of me and go someplace else, or they're like, I'm just gonna hire you and you just do it, but don't bother me with the details. Like,
Yes.
it's your business. I'm not the subject matter expert in your industry and your business. You are, and you have to be actively involved. If a client is willing to be actively involved in everything we're doing, that is the most successful client that I have. And that's the most fun. We have a lot of fun that way too.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that because I found that early on in my career, I was not smart enough to recognize that red flag of when a business owner would say, "Oh, I'm bringing you on because I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to touch it.
Right.
I don't want to think about it. You just go and run with it." And I learned very quickly that, well, I don't know your business, or I'm just making stuff up because you're not giving me any content or any messaging or any direction. Are you happy with that? I don't think so. We're never going to reach the goals that you were looking for. So,
Right.
so there's definitely, like you said, you can't outsource all of your marketing. You need to be involved. You need to help set the direction because no one knows your business better than you do, right?
And nobody has the love or joy of your business than you do. And marketing is all about emotion. And so, like, when you help your marketing person understand the why you love it and what the joy that it brings you, you're the one who can talk about it the best. We can then, as marketing professionals, take that and create the content and go to the marketing channels and do the stuff. But we have to first understand that passion and that love and that joy that you have in your business. Once we understand that, then we can help you succeed with your marketing. But yeah, I made the same mistake as well. We all have to learn in the beginning,
We
right?
all learn exactly, and
We
then
all
we can turn
learn.
around and share that experience with the people who ask us to help them. So I think that's lovely. So
Yeah.
um, well, let's talk a little bit more. You mentioned one reason or one challenge that business owners might start to work with you, which is just, I know we need to do more marketing, but I don't know what or how
Right.
or things like that. But what are some of the other common challenges that you see when you start working with your clients, just so that other business owners might say, ah, yeah, that is me. They can see themselves in that same situation.
Yeah, plateauing in sales is a huge like red flag on that, because usually what happens is, and you probably relate to this as well, like you exhaust your existing network of people
Yes.
that you already know, and you have to start selling people who you don't know. And then that's when your sales kind of plateau.
Right.
That's when you're like, okay, well, I need to do something different than I have been doing.
Mhm.
And so that's usually, when sales get stagnant. Or it's interesting. I've had a couple of clients that have turned into like, like a 1 or 2 month engagement has turned into like much longer engagements, because what they hired me for was actually just a symptom of a much deeper problem.
Okay.
So I have one client who hired me and says, they do a lot of the sales through emails, and they got a lot of people that opted out, or there was a lot of bounce rates and all the other stuff. And so they thought their email campaign was bad because they weren't doing the e-commerce. They were doing email campaigns to do e-commerce.
Okay.
And so what happened was, what I found out was that was just a symptom of a much deeper problem of the disorganized aspect of the 4 different departments that they had. They had 4 different product lines. They were all emailing to the same exact email list
Okay.
and not telling each other when they were emailing. And so these poor clients were getting so many emails, even like multiple ones in a day, that they're like, I don't, it's too much. So the symptom was the opt-out rate and the low lack of e-commerce sales,
Yeah.
but the actual problem in the client experience, which was the marketing strategy of it,
Yeah.
was like, you just guys need to talk to each other. And then once they got, and all of their emails had different branding to it, different colors, different, like,
Okay.
it was all a mess. And so what we did was we got one person to organize all the emails, to schedule it.
Yeah.
We got the branding was on point. Like everybody had the exact same formatted email and the colors and everything. And once that happened, their sales like tripled. So
Wonderful.
this was just before, what was that, Black Friday?
Yeah.
And so their Black Fridays tripled from the 2 years prior, just on that one day, based on just strategizing and re-rating out the people you know, um, who had complained about too many emails and things like that, and fixing the problem.
Right.
So, a lot of times when you think it's this one problem in your marketing, it might be a deeper symptom to something else. And so that's when a strategist or
Hmm.
a brand strategist would come in and go, okay, this is actually just a symptom. There's something much deeper in here. Let's fix it. And then we can go from there.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Perfect. No, I love that example. I love that example. So, yeah, I was going to say another thing that I find interesting is this idea about small businesses having an issue deciding what to outsource versus what to keep in-house. And I don't know if you ever deal with that with your clients, and maybe some rule of thumb or how you help them work through that issue is that once they have the marketing strategy from you, now what do they do? How do they get it implemented? Do they outsource? Do they not outsource? And how you might deal
Yeah.
with that.
So there's a difference between having a marketing professional on your team and having a person on your team doing marketing.
Yes.
So a lot of times I find these smaller, especially small businesses, they have an office manager or they have an administrative assistant also doing the marketing, even though that's not their sole focus.
Hmm.
And so a lot of times what happens is that, and then and some small businesses have a marketing assistant, like they have somebody specific that just does marketing. And so that's the difference there is to outsource it is if you have somebody who's not a marketing professional doing your marketing, you might want to outsource it to somebody else, because it's going to, first of all, they have to learn as they go.
Hmm.
And so they're not getting their other work done. Like I had one person who was an administrative assistant, and she was in charge of the marketing as well. And she was just overwhelmed, like came in frustrated, crying at the end of the day, coming like just too much, because she was like, oh, because the business owner didn't understand the complexity of the marketing. He's like, just throw out some social posts, but she had to learn social posts and she didn't know the right content and she wasn't in the right channels. And so we took that and we let her just be the assistant. We created a marketing strategy, and then I found them an agency to outsource the marketing to that worked within that small business budget.
Perfect.
So that's when, if you have somebody dedicated to marketing, great. If you have somebody on your staff that's doing marketing, that's not their sole focus, I think that's when you should consider I'm not going to shit on anybody, but that's
Yeah.
a good time to consider outsourcing your marketing.
Okay. No, I like that. Have you ever worked with a client where marketing and sales were competing with each other as opposed to helping each other and aligning and working forward? I'd love to hear your
There's
stories
an
about
entire
that.
chapter in the book on that. That's so
Yeah.
funny you asked that question. Like
Yeah.
literally there's an entire chapter. I can't, okay. I was at this one client and we were in the boardroom and there's the CEO and the CFO and the head of marketing, the head of sales, and they're just yelling at each other, like adults yelling at each other. And I just stood there and the CEO was looking at me like I'm crazy, like, aren't you going to say anything?
Yeah.
And so, this is a much larger corporation, but at the same time, I started asking questions like, to the salesperson, like, what company do you work for? What company do you work for marketing? What are your goals, sales? It's to grow the business. What is your goals, marketing? Just to grow the business. And I'm like, so let me see. We work for the same company with the same goals and the same mission and the same alignment, and yet you're yelling at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Help me understand. It's like you're driving on the road to your analysis, right? But you're like trying to like run each other off the road. And
Right.
so it's that fact of sales and marketing is the same goal and it's the same business development. They just need to work in tandem with each other.
Right.
So what I had them do was I made them literally, I made marketing go on sales calls
Yeah.
and prospect calls and client calls. And then I made sales sit in on strategy sessions and marketing planning and creative meetings.
Right.
And once they understood what the other one did and how hard sales is and how hard it can be to be marketing, once they understood that, then they're like, okay, if I don't tell marketing what's happening out in the field as a salesperson,
Right.
they don't know. We as marketing people who sit in an office don't understand what's going on in the field. So if sales just said, hey, this is what my clients are looking for, this is what they're struggling with, this is the content that would really help them,
Mm-hmm.
that's how marketing is really going to make a great effort. Because once we understand as marketing professionals and being in sales for so long and being in marketing too, like I see both sides of the coin, it's really helpful. And then marketing, what they do with sales is like, okay, these are the kind of leads we're getting. Why are they good or why are they bad? Instead of like, I gave you leads, why didn't you close on the sales? Which is
Right.
literally the words I heard. It's like, why are they good leads? Why are they bad leads? Like, what's the lead time you need on this? Like just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And if you work together, I mean, I have seen when sales and marketing get along together and they understand each other's business and how it works, these companies just do very, very well.
Right. Exactly. Because basically you need to work off information, right? And marketing pulls different information from different sources, whether it's research or best practices on what other people are doing, or doing some, like you said, customer experience type, walkthroughs and all this. They have an understanding over here. And then sales, obviously, they're talking to the customer day to day. They've got great information about what kind of questions they're asking and things. And like you said, if they could just get together and share that information and realize that both of them are, like you said, they're moving towards the same goal. But I have been in some company situations where the VP of sales was in charge of marketing and basically just treated marketing as oh, I need a brochure about this. Or, it's like, okay, well, we're not helping you strategically because you don't look at us that way and treat us that way. And it was a mess. It was a huge mess. Then I worked in other companies where, again, marketing doesn't get any information from sales. So they put something out, maybe a direct mail campaign or something, and then sales just laughs at it and, oh, they
Right.
just totally missed the mark. And it's like, well, sit down because it's the company's money. And if one or the other is making mistakes, you need to stop that immediately, because otherwise that affects bonuses, it affects revenue, it affects, all those kinds of things. And the same thing with sales, the VP of sales I was talking about who treated, marketing just like a marcom agency that would push brochures out kind of a thing, was the salespeople without a clear strategy of who they were
Yeah.
targeting and what they were supposed to say and how to be consistent. They were selling anything to anyone and the brand was awful. It just, nobody knew what they stood for. No one could refer the company
Right.
because they're like, well, I thought they did this. No, I thought they did that. They say they do this, but they're not, and
Yeah.
it became a nightmare. And as the business owner, they need to step in and say, you know what, we need to get this aligned and you two need to
Yeah.
work together. And if it means setting up an internal incentive system so that there is incentive to work together, that I find works really well at companies too. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and the margins get bad because if you sell anything to everybody, you're not doing like the ideal client, selling to the ideal client, your margins get less because from those experiences that you and I probably both had was I didn't make a lot of money on those really bad clients is because they were
Right.
so needy and like changed their mind all the time. And they were just kind of a nightmare to work with because they themselves didn't know who they were. And so I spent a lot more time for the same exact money as working with this client over here who paid me the same amount, but knew who their brand was, knew what they wanted to do, had their business goals aligned, all of those kinds of things. And and said no to not ideal customers. Saying no is okay. You can say
Yeah,
no. It's
you can
okay.
say no.
No is a complete sentence. But the other thing is like what you were saying is that what I figured out when working with the sales and marketing was that, know, like, trust was coined a long time ago, not by me, but know is and like is marketing. They have to know you exist. They have to like what you have to say. And
Mm-hmm.
then sales takes over from like to trust.
Right.
And so them working together is that no like trust in business development. And that's what makes it successful when you have sales and marketing working together.
Correct.
So
Correct.
yeah,
Have you seen a shift? You see all kinds of articles, and maybe only us marketing people see them, but there's all kinds of articles about, how the buyer's journey has shifted, right? It
Mhm.
used to be that marketing's job was just to get a lead. And then, once they got the lead, everything was turned over to the salesperson and they were gone. Whereas you see a lot of information out there now about how a buyer might be 70% through the buyer's journey before they ever talk to a salesperson because they're looking at reviews, they're looking for testimonials, they're watching videos online, they're looking at competitive comparisons. They're looking at all this stuff and collecting the information on their own terms before
Yep.
they talk to someone. Well, then marketing has a much bigger role, right? Because marketing has to provide the information that a salesperson might have done in person in the past, but now the buyer is wanting to do it on their own terms, on their own channel or medium that they prefer. Have you seen that at all, or counsel your
100% of what you
clients
just
about
said.
that at all? Mm-hmm.
100% of what you just said. Yeah, 70% is about right now. American Marketing Association put out a study, I want to say it was like about a year ago or so,
Yeah.
it was about that number. It was like 68 to 70%. Because what happens is that everybody has more knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So they have access to more knowledge. Where before it was like when before the whole interwebs kind of showed up, I'm dating myself. It's like, oh, you should go to this restaurant because it's really good.
Yeah.
You just went to the restaurant. You didn't have reviews to look at. You didn't have things to check out. You didn't have the menu to peruse before you walked in the door, look at the website or their Yelp or whatever the case might be.
Right.
You just was like, oh, Susie said go to this restaurant. So I went to the restaurant. And so we have so much more knowledge available to us. You have to make sure your digital footprint, what's out there online, is accurate.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it's not accurate and you're not responding to bad reviews as well as good reviews, you're not actively pursuing that digital footprint that people are looking at to get that 70% of their knowledge base,
Yeah.
they're going to move on to the next competitor.
Right.
Because what's happening is that we have about 8 seconds to grab somebody's attention. And so you have to make sure whatever is out there is something that people will engage with and grabs their attention.
Right.
Because the shift that I'm also seeing is before it was very transactional. We went through a very long period of just transactional buying. And now we're back to that human connection, that, B to H, that business to human outreach and content and selling process where it's about relationships again. It's not as commoditized as it has been. So not only is it the digital footprint that you need, that 70%, that awareness, that knowledge base that people are getting before they even connect with you or contact you. It's that once they connect with you, that having that really good client experience, that people buy from people and
Yeah.
people buy based on emotion. And so understanding that and how that translates into your ideal client and your ideal audience is very critical when it comes to your marketing.
Yeah. No, I
Not
agree.
to overcomplicate what you asked me, but
No, I love it.
buy from people.
We're not, like we said, you and I are at a different level of expertise or knowledge about this particular topic. So it's great that you're explaining that. And yeah, it's used to be, I kind of walk my clients through the AIDA model when we're talking about it. So at the top of this pyramid, A stands for awareness, then you move into interest, I, and then D, desire, and then finally at the bottom, it's action, right? So, and it used to be that marketing just played at the very tip top of awareness, and then sales took over, and now it's almost flipped. So that's, again, another great reason why marketing and sales have to be working together, so that marketing can say, hey, did we miss anything in providing the knowledge or the information that needs to be in our digital footprint? And sales needs to also see, well, what's out there in the digital footprint? What messaging? What are we saying? So that when I
Right.
finally do get to talk to a customer, I'm not saying something completely different, that the story is consistent between what marketing has out there and what sales says when they finally get in front of a customer to close the deal. So it's essential not to break the brand by having inconsistent messaging at that point.
Yeah, and going back to that grocery store analysis that I did
Mhm.
earlier, it's like if you think of marketing as the nutrition and the food to feed your brand, that's why it's so important, so that it's consistent. It's like, people think, oh, I'm just going to put out a whole bunch of posts and a whole bunch of advertisements and then I'll be good for a while.
Right,
That's not how it works. It's like gorging on pizza and beer one day and think you can't eat the rest of the week.
right.
It doesn't work. You have to have that consistent, sustainable, high nutrition density of marketing in there feeding your business, which will in the long term help it grow.
Yeah.
So that's how I try to explain it as well. It's this consistent high quality versus, doing a whole bunch of stuff at once and then like not doing anything for a while.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. That's how you keep your brand healthy, how you keep your company healthy and strong. So,
Ooh, I'm going to steal that. Keeping your brand healthy. Yeah,
yes,
that's
yes,
exactly it. Exactly.
yes.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, I think we are close to time here, and I want to respect your time. So this has been great. Thank you so much for making time to talk with me today, because I think my audience is going to absolutely love what you had to say, and because I love what you had to say. But I just love your stories about brand building and marketing. And as you said, the analogies are awesome. So let's just end it here. Kind of, I want to say, if people want to work with you or hire you to speak or find your book, where should they go? How can they find you?
Well, everything is on the website, rebelgirlmarketing.com. It's pretty easy. Or if you want to get a hold of me directly, just Lisa at rebelgirlmarketing.com. Just shoot me an email. But yeah, the book is available on Amazon. And it's also something that I actually give away a lot at my speaking engagements as well. And so the speaking information is on the website as well. And I would love to talk to audiences because I truly believe that the reason my sole purpose is having all this experience is to help small businesses stay in business, because every large business started as a small business, and if it is the lifeblood of our community, and without it our communities die. And I think that small businesses and small communities are the heart of the United States and actually the world, quite
Yeah,
honestly. So
yeah,
small businesses is my passion.
yeah. Perfect. Again, Lisa, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insight. I appreciate it. So, and
Yes.
to everyone out there listening, thank you so much. I hope you've been inspired to ignite your growth by leveraging your brand.